These defenses now are not equipped to deal with Georgia's size. That's what Andy Staples said. Now, I'm paraphrasing it a little bit. Let me give you the full quote. He says, "What do you do if everybody gets small?" Talking about the defenses in the SEC. He says, "You get big, and that's what you'll see from Georgia." And he goes on to say these defenses now are not equipped to deal with Georgia's size and tight ends. It is going to be a challenging thing to deal with this offense. I mean, I've talked about this a lot. I have not seen Andy Staples at a Georgia practice in my life, but and I've not seen him this fall. But I'll say this: the number one thing that I was struck by was the difference in the line of scrimmage for Georgia, and that is the defensive line being smaller, and the offensive line looking really big. And I think what Andy's touching on, this was during Paul's show at some point last week. I can't remember when it was, but I wrote the quote down because Andy's saying, hey, for such a long time, we've seen SEC defenses get smaller because everybody's spread out, this, that, and the other. He said the point for him is when Georgia spreads guys out, they're spreading them out. They're going to spread out with Bowers, Gilbert, or Washington, and Washington. In other words, all those guys that are 200 plus pound guys, you can flex them in. Now, this isn't Andy saying this. This is other people who have played football for a long time, for 4 years at Georgia, saying you can go out there with these tight ends and do whatever you want to do. If they come out and dime, you run on them. If they come out heavy, you throw on them. It's challenging, for every zig you zag. And not just that, but the inside linebackers specifically are the thing that we've seen change so much. The quick anecdotal story. When I went to go watch John Theus and Derrick Henry play in the spring of 2011, I think it was, Alabama wasn't really recruiting Derrick Henry in a big way. And Derrick was a huge tailback. I thought he might play linebacker. He was so big, but you just couldn't stop him. He was that deadly. At that point in this league, you had thumpers in the middle of your defense. These were guys that were big linebackers, the Jarvis Jacksons of the world. Trying to think of other kind of bigger guys who were in the middle, Danny Verdun Wheeler, people like that. These were not fast guys. These were really big guys. And if you remember what happened with Georgia and West Virginia in the Sugar Bowl after the '05 season, West Virginia was so fast, Georgia couldn't really keep up with them. Over the last 15 years, what's happened is defenses have had to adjust. They've had to adjust to the spread. They've had to adjust to the read option game. They've had to adjust to, at first it was Urban. Then you had Auburn doing it. And eventually that just got to the point where LSU was out there with Joe Burrow flinging the ball all over the place, not caring at all. Defensively, you had a real hard time dealing with that if you had big, bulky guys playing defense in the middle of your defense. Enter Nakobe Dean, enter Roquan Smith, enter speed demons at linebacker. Well, the challenging thing if you've got faster guys is can they deal with the straightforward power of what Georgia could have the ability to do to them on the offensive line? It's a great question. And, you know, that Andy is not an idiot should be step one here because so many guys get on this show, man, they don't have the first clue. I mean, they're either not at practices, they never played a sport. There's a zillion things that they just don't know what they're talking about. I hate to be that way, but it's true. And the fact of the matter is that the sport has changed again. It's consistently evolving. Um, and we're going to see an evolution from the dogs where now it's going to be the offense that's going to be big, bulky, and scary. And can you stop this offense rather than can you score on that defense? Hey, look, I got some good news and I got some bad. The good news is DAWGSTRUCTION still ready to roll. I don't lie to my audience. We're out of these. I've been warning y'all for a while. It's just what it is. It was a limited edition, and they're gone. The places you can get them is at Red Zone. I've done the math. We are out. So the only place now that you can pick up 2022 preview is either being an annual subscriber at Dog Post, which those are all out now, or being going down to Red Zone and grabbing them. Meanwhile, do not forget to pick this up. It's an awesome book. I'm not going to stop promoting it. Haters Unite. People who are interested, you can click the link down below. I'm telling you, it's a great book. There are stories in here you're not going to get anywhere else. Other people have really cool books, but they're just recaps of the season. This tells you what was going on. This gives you some behind the scenes that you simply will not get anywhere else. All due respect to everybody else in the book game, of which there's, I think, one or two other people. But this one is the one you need to get. Forward from Jeff Foxworthy, okay? I wonder just how physical this team can be or will be when it's all said and done on the offensive side of the ball. You're talking about, as we go left to right, Broderick Jones. It looks like Willock will see at left guard. Cedric Van Pran, who Cedric Van Pran Granger, who you probably do not want to mess with. Right guard is a question. Is it going to be Tate Ratledge? Is it going to be Truss? Is it going to be Erickson? I said Truss. Truss could be left guard. I mean, we don't know the guards. And then, of course, right tackle. I mean, you got to say Warren McClendon is probably the best multi-year starter at right tackle in some time at Georgia. In fact, I'm not sure I can think of anyone else who was a multi-year starter at right tackle. I know that the Stinchcombs kicked around right tackle. So did Andrew Thomas, but those are typically for a season. I mean, Warren McClendon's legit and the real deal. You got that plus, plus Darnell is basically a sixth offensive lineman. I mean, okay, we went out to see Darnell in Vegas. Keely Ringo was at the same game. It is hard to describe in person how large Darnell Washington is. And having played AAU basketball with the Atlanta Celtics for much of my youth, I know what big people look like. Darnell's in that category of just big, long, huge, but he's so physical. He's just not tall. It's that he's physical too. I wouldn't want to deal with that. And I think that that's a challenge for the defense, that the defenses that are out there, it really is going to be problematic. No, I do not think Georgia's running backs are going to be as good um, in 22 as they were in 21. I don't know if we're going to be able to tell a difference. I think the reason why is there's going to be so much other commotion going on with this offense that it's going to be challenging to defend everything, and that includes the run. So, as I've said to the folks that work with me and the folks that work for me, there's any number of ways to make money. There's any other number of ways to score and win. You don't have to do it the way you've always done it. And I think that's the important part to remember here is that this offense is going to give defenses trouble. Again, from Andy Staples, who's been covering the sport for a while. What do you do if everybody got small? You get big, and that's what you'll see from Georgia. These defenses are not equipped to deal with Georgia's size. And let's not forget, everybody was scoring points. Everybody was scoring points. Georgia scored points too in 2021. But everybody didn't have this defense. And that's what everyone said gave Georgia the advantage. Well, if it's now that you don't have to win with the defense, you can just outscore people too. Now the fear amongst Georgia fans who must panic at all times. I mean, it's just what it is. It's like if there were a blood type for Georgia fans, it would be panic. But the truth is that they can outscore people with Stetson Bennett. Um, and they outscored Alabama. So we forget just how many points they scored against legitimate teams. Okay, they didn't have to outscore. I mean, 33-18. I don't know if that's outscoring Alabama the way some of y'all are about things, but 34-11 with Michigan basically shut it down in the second half. I'm not going to mention the Georgia Tech game, which was a 45-0 whipping. I mean, from the Tennessee game, 41 points, to the end of the season, from the Missouri game to the end of the season, they scored 40 points or more in every single game. That's a quarter of the season where they scored 40 points. That's a lot of points. You look at the Arkansas game, 37, shut it down, 62 against Vanderbilt. Y'all, they're out. The only team they didn't outscore was Clemson. They happened to beat them. They just didn't score as much as they should have against Clemson. Okay, I've said that often. This is going to be a different team. This is going to be a different time. This is going to be a different thing. Folks, you don't have to like it. I know a lot of y'all won't, but it's just what it is. And it's probably going to work.